We've got a charged atmosphere for two rivals in the East Division. It's the Moonshine Throwdown. Marshall and Western Kentucky.
Intercepted by Key, and Key has one man to beat. A nice cut move. Edwards can't get him. Key takes it all the way. A pick six for Devin Key.
Here comes Talik Keaton to the sideline midfield. He's to the 40, gets a block, and here's goal! Touchdown, Marshall!
So please join me in welcoming the 21st head coach in WKU football history, Tyson Helton.
And Marshall's going to finish the year 9-4 and champions of the 2018 Gasparilla Bowl, the sixth consecutive bowl win for the Marshall Thundering Herd.
Welcome back to the Moonshine Throwdown podcast, guys. A little change up this week. Just a quick wrap-up episode reliving the homecoming game in Bowling Green against Charlotte and Marshall's trip down to Boca to get a really awesome win over FAU. We're going to dedicate the preview episode to the Moonshine Throwdown all by itself, so you'll get that in a couple more days. But right now we're just going to relive these two awesome victories that really made this Moonshine Throwdown go to another level, being that what all's on the line. So let's start in Bowling Green, Kentucky, with Western Kentucky hosting Charlotte for homecoming. A 30-14 win for the Tops. And right off the bat, we got to stop right there and say Stephen almost nailed the score. His prediction was 30-13. Just 1 point off. But, man, he almost nailed it. So the Hilltoppers moved to 5-2 on the season, 1 win away from bowl eligibility. And wouldn't it be fitting to get bowl eligible at the hands of the Herd this coming Saturday in the Moonshine Throwdown for Marshall's homecoming? Tops moved to 4-0 in Conference USA, still atop the leaderboard in the East, all alone. Everybody's looking up at the Tops. So let's talk about 4 indicators in this game, and this was one of those that goes like you would thought it would. Yardage, time of possession, first downs, and turnovers all favor Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky outgains Charlotte 351-286, outpossesses Charlotte 31 minutes, 35 seconds to 28 minutes, 25 seconds. First downs 19-14, and Charlotte turns the ball over once. Toppers not at all. All of that leads up to a 30-14 victory. Nice win in homecoming, Steve. About the only thing I can say that doesn't really pertain to the game itself is I saw crowd shots of the tailgating outside. It looked great, but the announced attendance in the game, not so great. And I really don't know what you can ask for now, man, coming off of a 3-9 year, looking at 5-2, first place in Conference USA East. You would have thought this would have been a pretty big crowd, close to capacity. I mean, even if it was just Charlotte, I mean, G-Money Christmas, Topper fans been longing for a first place team for a couple of years now. They got one, and only 15,816 came through the gates. I know you got to be a little disappointed with that. But, other than that, I mean, what else can you say? It was a good win, good game. Ty Story broke out a little bit. Lucky Jackson broke out a little bit. I mean, let's talk to me a little bit about Charlotte. I know you were there. I know you were at the game. So tell me what you remember, what you liked, didn't like, all that good stuff.
Yeah, speaking to the homecoming crowd, the wife and I arrived a little bit late. We actually missed kickoff by a couple minutes. But walking up, man, kickoff had already occurred and tailgating was still packed. There was people everywhere. The sidewalks were full. We got into the stadium, got down to the tents. And, like you said, the crowd was just disappointing. The top corners and most of the top was just very sparsely empty. So just kind of disappointing. The weather was pretty good all day. It was 74 and sunny. At 1 o'clock around the Topper Walk. It did get a little bit overcast and a little bit cooler as the game kicked off. But the people were there. They just didn't come inside. Whatever reasons why, socializing, drinking, whatever, having fun. But the game-wise, man, good game. First of all, I got to shout out Coach Helton and Ellis. I know they're listening because I've been asking for that playbook to come open. All of a sudden, that playbook comes open, we're scoring 30, baby.
Yeah, 30.
been asking for it, been preaching for it. We've got the talent there. We opened that playbook, and just Lucky Jackson had himself a day. Ja'Cour Pearson just proved that when he gets the ball over the middle, that kid's like a bowling ball. He just runs over people, bounces off of people, and finds his way to the end zone. Jock Sloan had a huge pass dropped, wide open. Could have been another 6 for us. End up kicking 5 field goals, made 3 of them. So still left points on the field, but can't be discouraged with a 30-point outing when we've been just barely getting to 20 every game. And then just held Charlotte after their first few drives. So they put some points on the board early. Looked like it might be a shootout. The defense really buckled down, pitched a shutout in the second half, if I'm not mistaken, and just did what they do, man. Just bend, don't break, cause havoc in the backfield. And then also the team as a whole, 1 penalty the whole game.
Wow.
And that was a very, very controversial pass interference call, Roger Cray, that a couple plays later he turned around and had an interception. So I believe we only had 2 penalties last week, 1 penalty this week, no turnovers this week. So playing very clean, very disciplined football. If that travels to Huntington with the defense that should be bringing, I have very high hopes for that game. I think playing clean football, discipline, and that solid defense is going to lead us to several more victories, even with the schedule that we have ahead of us. But just overall good game. It was nice to get that revenge against Charlotte. Followed up Benny LeMay, and just overall had a great game. I mean, just like you said, I almost called it, almost Nostradamus'd it, but good game, good win. Looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, I got to say, man, I was watching this game, and I, like you, was thinking, are we in for a little bit of a shootout? But it wasn't like that quick strike shootout that you think about, because both teams' opening drives almost ate up the entire first quarter. 14 minutes, 8 seconds of the first quarter came off the clock between the 2 opening drives, and both led to touchdown. Both really long plays. I think Charlotte's was a 14-play drive, 75 yards. Topper's was like 12 plays, 75 yards. Just a different type of shootout. And I, like you, thought, wow, okay, what's happening here with this Topper defense early on? And then they settled and stiffened. And I wrote that down just like you said. But I come to find out that the starting defensive tackles were out for the game. And I thought, so this is why some runs are being broken off early, or some plays are coming, some extra time to complete a pass is happening. But, adjustments were made. The defense settled in, and, they began to dominate. So let's talk a little bit of stats here. Ty Story, I said, he had a little bit of a breakout game. Looks like he's really coming into his own now, and that's a scary thing for Hilltopper opponents. 21 of 30, 283 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and a touchdown reception in the game. Lucky Jackson, we mentioned, broke out a little bit, 1 of 1 passing for 8 yards, and he threw that touchdown pass to Ty Story on a little bit of a trick play. Gage Walker, solid game, not great game, 21 carries, 70 yards. Lucky Jackson through the air, leading receiver, 5 catches for $141 and a touchdown. Scored on a sweet 69-yard flea flicker. I believe your boy here called for a trick play as a key to victory, and Toppers ran 2 and scored a touchdown on both. Ja'Cour Pearson, 7 catches, 68 yards and a touchdown. You said it, man. Get the kid in the open field, and he just finds his way to the end zone. Defensively, it was Kyle Bailey leading the way, 8 tackles, 4 solo, 1 quarterback hurry. Antoine Kincaid, a guy that was in on a lot of plays early, had a really solid game, 7 tackles, 6 solo, and 1 tackle for loss. And, of course, it wouldn't be a Hilltopper defensive update if we didn't mention D'Angelo Malone, who had the best all-around game, really, 5 tackles, 4 solo, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, and 3 quarterback hurries. D'Angelo Malone, I believe, now stands alone atop Conference USA in sacks. Gone unnoticed by me during the preview of this game was that this was a showdown of Conference USA's 2 leading sackers, between D'Angelo Malone and Highsmith from Yeah. Doty kept calling him Hightower, by the way, on the broadcast, but his name is Highsmith. I believe he had a sack as well. He and Malone, I think, traded sacks on, not simultaneous, but you know what I mean? One possession after the other to kind of go back and forth on the lead. And then Malone tacked on another one and now has the lead all by himself. Corey Munson, you mentioned it, 3 of 5 on field goals, long of 48 though. How about that? And then 3 of 3 on extra points. So, hey, solid game, solid win. This is not even one of those ones where you say a dub's a dub because you win by 16 points. You didn't cruise, but you weren't in any capacity scared by this opponent that you were going to lose the game or they were hanging around. So let's talk some quick grades, and we'll look forward to a preview of a really big game coming up. So how about the quarterback play this week, Steve?
Hey, Ty Story, man. Just he's getting it done. He's gone from game manager to just guy that can open it up and throw the ball downfield. I'm glad that he's getting some leash now, letting him open up the playbook, letting him check off plays. Ty Story gets an A, man. Solid game, big W. Expect a few more of those. I think he's got more in his bag.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have that. This was a good one, a homecoming, a beatable opponent. You're right. They kind of cut him loose a little bit, tacked on some extra yardage. Still really good accuracy. But, hey, man, don't leave out Lucky. Quarterback, 1 of 1, touchdown. I mean, A+ for Lucky Jackson in my book. How about offensively as a whole? You finally get that 30-point threshold you've been longing for all season long, highest output of the season. This may be the beginning of the freight train starting to move on the offensive side of the ball for the top. So what do you got offensively this week?
Yes, sir. We still left some points on the board. That's obvious from looking at the breakdown of the game and how many field goals we kicked, but still you can't be mad with finally getting to 30, moving the ball down the field, seeing some progress still on that side of the ball instead of a lot of punting. So definitely give those guys an A. Did a solid job. Good game.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Let's move straight along here. Defensively, started out a little slow, made adjustments, came on strong.
Yeah, I mean, defense gets an A. I mean, they're leading Conference USA in points allowed per game. I believe it's around 11.44 after 4 games in conference play. So just all around, until somebody pushes them around and blows them up, those guys are going to lead us to some victories. They're just stifling anybody. We just got to put a couple touchdowns on the board, and we're in position to take a W. So those guys get an A, solid performance, clean effort, and just doing what they do. That's what they've done. That's who they are. That's what they are. And that's what we're going to get every single week.
You said that clean effort, and it's really easy to get penalties racked up on the defensive side of the ball. Outside of false starts and holding, most of the penalties you see are defensive, and to only have one, which you say was questionable, and I don't say that you're wrong, I just don't remember seeing the play, but one penalty, I mean, playing aggressive defense, you don't get those, hands to the face calls, defensive holding, pass interference, those aren't happening. So even if it doesn't lead you to a victory, every game that's going to get you an extra possession or two, you know what I mean? So, God, it's just amazing they keep doing this week in and week out. So how about the special teams this week against Charlotte?
Yeah, I mean, we actually had a couple good kick returns. Like we mentioned, the field goals, Munson, 3 of 5. Still a freshman kicker. That 48-yard kick was coming into the 10th end zone, squeaked it in there, had a little bit more distance on it. Might have been able to get 50 out of that. But got to like that kid's effort and leg being put in there from day one and just getting it done. Still inconsistent at times with, lining up on the hash. Haggerty had a good game. Special teams, I'm going to give them a B. Not average because they put some good points on the board. And they didn't do anything to hurt us or cost us any field position or points. So give those guys a B.
Man, 48 yards as a true freshman, and I always think about true freshmen playing and doing well, and then I think, wow, wait till they get a year in the strength program, wait till they get an off-season program. a year older, bigger, stronger. This kid might be banging him through from 55 with ease by the time the season rolls around. We have no idea. I mean, to be able to do it in these situations as a being in high school at this time last year, you can't say enough about Corey Miller. He's a phenomenal get for the Hilltoppers. Going to be a good player for the next 3.5 more seasons. Okay, another solid coaching effort, it appears, Steve. So high praise for the Topper staff again.
Yeah, high praise, man. Again, since they're listening, let's stroke their ego a little bit, man. Helton and Ellis, y'all are killing it, my guys. Y'all are killing it. Clayton White, you're doing what you do, man. Big baby, I got love for you. Keep doing what you're doing on that side of the ball. But Helton, Ellis, bring the whole playbook to Huntington, baby. I want to see everything. Everything.
Bring all the smoke.
I want some 60-6, baby. I want some of that action. I'll give them an A. I'm going to give them an A. They're doing what they do. 5-2, 4-0, number 1 in the division. Hey.
If you said anyone listening said, yeah, we're going to be 5-2, 4-0 in conference, there's no way. There's no way anybody thought this was going to happen. This is nothing short of remarkable. I mean, the job that these guys are doing is amazing. Amazing. Got to be an A. Okay, overall, I mean, I'm staring down the list of grades. Your lowest grade's a B. This is a great report card right here.
Yeah, man, we're making the AB honor roll for sure. Yeah. So I'm gonna give him an A overall. Good game. Expected to win. Revenge game. The revenge tour continues. Underdogs, question mark. We love that. Bring that. So yeah. We'll see what -6.5 brings next week. Give him an A.
Yeah, you said it. -6.5. Next stop on the Revenge Tour, Huntington, West Virginia. Short 5-hour jaunt from Bowling Green, Kentucky. And, we'll talk about it more in depth later, but this is the Revenge Tour because it really doesn't get any more, I don't know, bitter. That game was there for the taking, last year. And to have it end the way it did, it's the highest of highs for the Herd and kind of the lowest of the lows for the Tops. Being that it was in the red zone and right there, but it was just a hell of a play. And, somebody's got to win. This last year, it was the Herd. So here's the question, Steve. So now 7 games in, what do we know about this Topper team? I mean, each week we talk about it, and each week the picture becomes a little bit more clear. So what do we know about this Western Kentucky team after 7 games?
Well, I mean, enough's been said about the defense. I don't think I have to look at that side of the ball too much. But I think it's safe to say that the best football is still yet to be played for the offensive side of things. And that, granted, our strength of schedule is still pretty tough coming down the end of the season here, but that should still be a not very fun thing to know about the Hilltoppers. If you've watched their progression, Ty Story growing into, the leader of the offense now. Their best football is ahead of them, and I'm really excited. They could go 5-0, they could go 0-5 these last 5 games, but I guarantee they won't go down without a fight in every single one of those games. So real excited. We know the defense is going to bring it every single Saturday, and the offense is just going to continue to grow and get better. So big things coming. Win or lose, big things coming for Hilltopper football this year and for years to come. I like the direction we're going.
I don't think there's any chance that they go 0-5. No way. I'm not going to say whether they can. Well, they can. I'm not going to say whether they will or won't lose against Marshall. We saw what FAU brings to the table. If you can play solid defense on them, there's no way they lose to Middle Tennessee at home. No way. Even if they lose the next 4, they will become bowl eligible at the hands of Middle Tennessee, which is just about as sweet as becoming bowl eligible at the hands of the Herd. So I think you're right. The best football's ahead of them, but the schedule stiffens tremendously the last half. So we'll see what they got because they've got to bring their A game from here on out. But I like it, man. I like where you're at. I like where they're going. There's nothing there's nothing not to like about this whole season for the Tops right now, especially with what you've endured for the last two. Whew. Bunch of good people in Bowling Green. They deserve some wins, daggone it. Now, do me a favor and go through the gates and watch this team win. It is what it is. All right, we're switching gears now. We're going to head up to, well, we're not heading up to Huntington. Actually, the game was down here closer to me. Boca Raton, Florida. The Herd traveled down to play Florida Atlantic and the Lane Train, Trace. Whining in paradise, I tweeted after his tweet about the blind referees. What a hack that guy is. Marshall gets the win 36-31. Brings the Herd to 4-3 on the season, 2-1 in conference, with a very important showdown this weekend against Western Kentucky for a very, very, very important tiebreaker in the Eastern Division. But let's talk about FAU right now. In front of a crowd of 15,138. And if there were 15,138 people in that stadium, that's the same 15,000 folks that show up at Middle Tennessee to watch those games. Let's put it that way.
They counted the individual feet, I think.
Well, I think, I don't know what they counted, but
still rounded up.
There were not 15,000 people in that stadium. And anyway, let's talk about those indicators. 460 yards to 419. Marshall outgains FAU. How about that? 32 minutes and 33 seconds for the Herd. 27-27 for FAU. The Herd outpossesses FAU. 20 first downs for the Herd. 22 for FAU. So they do lose the first down battle, and turnovers are 1-1. So, you would think this would be a close game. As we indicated in the preview, the games in Boca tend to be a little bit closer, and this one was 5 points of separation. So it stayed true to tradition there in those games in Boca. The Herd went up quick, Trace, 3-0, but it was a frustrating 3-0. That should have been a touchdown drive, and I'm sure a lot of fans were thinking, oh, man, here we go. We're going to move the ball and have to settle for field goals. Not really, but it did get a little scary. Herd fell behind 14-3. They ended up tying the game before halftime, 17-all. And then that third quarter kind of came around, Trace, and you're thinking, all right, which Herd's going to show up? Well, they actually shut out FAU in the third quarter and put up 5 whole points of their own to take a 22-17 lead. And the fourth quarter was back and forth, and ultimately the Herd pulls away 36-31. So I know you've got some good things you want to talk about with this game. So please relive FAU for me.
Oh, man, I was sitting there thinking about it last night or whenever it was. I don't remember when, but I was thinking this is probably the most thrilling, exciting game Marshall's played in a long time. Like, it was really a compelling, exciting game. And for the crowd that always says that Marshall games are boring now, and quite frankly, a lot of them are boring, not to get too in-depth with that, this game wasn't boring in the slightest. This game was completely thrilling. This is like one of those kind of vintage Marshall games that, the crowd, the people, and the fans talk about for years to come. Now, I'm not saying this is a game that they'll talk about that long, but this game was fantastic. It was an unbelievable win for the Herd, especially the way that they did it. Scoring their touchdown, game-winning touchdown with just seconds to go. I mean, it was about as thrilling as you could get. And I'll make no bones about it. I predicted FAU to win the game because I said Marshall had to show me they were capable of winning a game like this. And thankfully they showed me. And now I think the team has a lot more confidence. I know the fans have more confidence in believing in the team now that they went on the road and beat a good team like that. So, I mean, I think that I tweeted right after it. I think it's going to be a season-changing win, and I'm going to stick by that until I see otherwise. Now, we know Marshall's still erratic and inconsistent, so you can't really – it's still hard to trust them, but, I think that win will do a lot for them because, that was on the road. They were a road underdog, and, it was well-documented in Marshall's record as a road underdog holiday, and they managed to pull off a big, big win on national TV Friday night, all that stuff. So it was really big for their confidence and big for the season. Now they're right there in position. If they can win this game coming up, then Marshall has a fantastic chance to win the East because they will own tiebreakers over the two top teams in the East besides Marshall right now. So that would be huge. So we'll see how it goes, but I have a lot better taste in my mouth now than I have since probably about the Ohio game. So I mean, you know how it goes. Seasons are very up and down, the long and winding road, so right now it's looking pretty good, but it can change in a heartbeat. We've seen it over and over, so you still don't know what you're going to get. But for right now, I have a good taste in my mouth, and I think that's going to bode well for the rest of the season.
Well, you said it. You picked the FAU to win, as did I. And I am very happy, as we said, we would both be happy to eat the crow this week when we wrapped up these games. And, man, I tell you what, that crow tastes good. I've been eating it for 2 weeks. I said it
fried crow
against the Thompson Army. I was eating crow 2 weeks ago. I'm eating crow again this week. Look, I challenged the herd to go out and prove it to me, and they did. And, you said that this is a game that they might not talk about for years to come. I tend to disagree a little bit because Brendan Knox put on a freaking show, and being that it was against Lane Kiffin's team, this is one that the herd fans will talk about for a while. The game that Brendan Knox put up 220 against FAU in Boca, and this was one of those games that that Doc Holliday gets knocked on for being a road underdog against a winning team with a winning record and all that stuff, and they just went down and won that game. So, yeah, we had cause to think that the herd wasn't going to win because Doc's record in games like that is not very good. But they proved that they are better than FAU, and they didn't have to go get a bunch of turnovers and FAU to give the game away. As a matter of fact, they didn't get a turnover that they should have had. There was an obvious fumble that was not called and was not reviewed. Obvious. So you can keep your meme with the blind referees lane train because you guys got away with one. But let's talk stats, man. Isaiah Green, 15 out of 24, 206 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Just like I told you, Isaiah Green's the guy that's going to give you $175, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, maybe a pick. That's who he is. Let him be who he is. Brendan Knox, 23 carries, workhorse-like day, a career-high 220 yards rushing, 9.6 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns, earning him Conference USA Offensive Player of the Week honors. Man, he had at least 3 big chunk plays, 2 on the same drive. The herd had a really long drive, and he had like 85 yards rushing on that one drive. He had like a 43-yard run, and then 2 plays later, like a 35-yard run or something like that. And then the clutch touchdown run with maybe under a minute or something like that to go when it was like 3rd and 1. And I want to talk about that play real quick because if you'll remember, Trace, Sheldon Evans was in the game. Knox was out, and they had a stoppage of play or something. Somebody called timeout. I can't remember what it was. The referees stopped, and it allowed Brendan Knox to come back in the game, and they handed off to him to pick up the yard they needed, and to the end zone he went to seal the game for the herd.
Sure did.
Outstanding effort by Brendan Knox. Armani Levias continues to show that he is the man for the herd this year as far as receivers go. From that tight end position, 4 catches, 70 yards, and a touchdown is the herd's leading receiver on the season. He really outdueled Harrison Bryant there in the battle of tight ends. I saw on my timeline that the Senior Bowl reps were there watching Harrison Bryant, and Armani Levias outdueled Harrison Bryant. So I hope he opened up some eyeballs. Maybe he'll get himself a Senior Bowl invite later in the season. That'd be pretty awesome. Willie Johnson, 1 catch, but what a big one. 60 yards and a touchdown. Willie was having a rough game up until he caught that ball. He dropped a big play earlier in the game. Just didn't look good. So I'm glad he was able to snag that one and get into the end zone. 3rd consecutive game for a chunk play touchdown for Willie Johnson. Defensively, Amari Cobb, the big day, 11 tackles, 7 solo, 1 sack, 1.5 tackles for loss, and a pass defended. Brandon Drayton, 6 tackles, 3 solo, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, and a pass defended. Tyler Brown, how about Tyler Brown? 4 tackles, 4 solo, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, and I believe one of his sacks was the safety. And
was.
Yeah, and the herd, 7 sacks this week, Trace. That's 15 quarterback sacks the past 2 games. This defense is really cruising right now. So I can't wait to talk about some particulars when we preview the Moonshine Throwdown. The defense is going to be a point of emphasis. So that's going to be fun to talk about. And how about Stephen Gilmore? First career interception, sealing the game as FAU was trying to make a late push to get something going. First interception of the season for a defensive back for Marshall, and we are 7 games in. Pretty amazing. Justin Rowasser, 2 of 2 on field goals, 2 of 2 on extra points. Is he not still perfect on the season, Trace? Field goals?
Yeah, he is.
Having a great season. Good for him, man. And Robert Lefevre, 7 punts, 42-yard average. Not a bad average, but he let one loose there that I think it only went about 28 yards or something like that. So good all-around game for him to bounce back after shanking one. So, Trace, grades time. Let's start with Isaiah Green and the job he did behind center.
Yeah, I'm a little bit iffier with this grade because, he did some good things, but there was too many things that stand out as not very good. So I'm going to go C+ for Green this week. Let me explain. First of all, let me explain. Okay. So, if you just look at the stats, it looks like he had a pretty good day. 15 or 24, 206, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. But the 1 pick was really bad. He stared down a receiver for 30 seconds, I feel like, and just, it just wasn't going to happen. And the corner knew no, sorry. And then, if you look at the QBR, it was only 44.2, but that's actually a little higher than what Chris Robeson's was. His was 40.8, so he actually outplayed his fellow co-freshman of the year from last year. So take that for what it's worth. But there was one sequence in particular that I know Herd fans are going to talk about for a long time. That penalty that I don't know what he said, but when they are about to score a touchdown, and a lot of people are saying that he probably really didn't say that much, but I don't care if he said it or not. You can't. Two refs. If you're that close to the refs, you cannot say anything. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it was worth getting a penalty or not. Just don't be stupid and don't shoot your mouth off no matter what you say. Just don't give him the chance. Don't give him the power to make that call. And that cost Marshall 4 points. And I tweeted that was going to cost them the game, and thankfully it didn't. But that was horrible. That was almost game changing. And then, of course he missed some throws, but he did come alive really well in the fourth quarter. He made a couple big throws. The touchdown to Willie Johnson, beautiful throw. He made a nice 3rd down and long conversion to Corey Gamage on Marshall's game-winning touchdown drive. That was nice. So he made some plays. Obviously the offense was led by Brendan Knox in the O-line, but Green made some plays when it mattered. But overall, I feel like C+ is fair just because there was some pretty bad stuff too, and some good stuff. So just kind of right in the middle.
Yeah, I had forgotten about that penalty. You're right. That was a big deal. It just was. And it boggles my mind that Isaiah Green can hit, that 60-yard bomb.
Yeah.
But he can't hit the 7-yard out. You know what I mean?
It makes no sense.
It's always high. Nothing against the kid, but you're the quarterback. You're going to get dissected. That comes along with the territory. And it's mind-boggling, man. He can't. He's not consistent with the easy throw or even the open throw, but he will chuck 160 yards on the fly and drop it in the breadbasket. It's amazing.
I started Levias too in that touchdown.
Yeah, it was. It absolutely was. So he's very hot and cold, but I'm glad the hot throws are going for long scores. That helps. That helps quiet the grumbling. When you miss first down pass, second down pass, and then you hand the ball off 3rd and 10. So it is what it is. All right, 36 points this week, Trace. How about the offensive effort? Another 460 yards of offense. Offense is. It is what it is.
Yeah, I think it was a solid performance. I'm gonna go A- for the offense this week. Like you said, 36 points. That's a really strong output for most weeks in Conference USA. That's a strong output, capable of winning games. If you look at the passing yards and rushing yards, they were pretty balanced. 206 passing, 254 rushing, and like you said, 460 total. That's solid. And they scored clutch points. They made clutch plays when it mattered. Every time FAU would answer in the fourth quarter, Marshall would answer right back every time. That was big for the offense's momentum. That was big for their confidence. They did have the one turnover on the Green pick, but And then the only reason I say A- though is because the first quarter was pretty rocky. It was not very good. They got down 14-3, and I was thinking, okay, this could be a rout. It was heading in that direction. The offense it was not going well. So thankfully, Green threw that really nice slant pass to Levias, and he took it to the house. So that flipped the whole game. But other than the first quarter kind of, woes or whatever, the offense was really good. So I'm going to say A-.
Yeah, you're right. I was thinking the same thing. FAU was moving the ball early. It was similar to what Western's defense was allowing against Charlotte, but they settled in and, ultimately ended up doing all they needed to do to win the game. So speaking of defense, let's talk about the defensive grade this week.
Yeah, this is kind of a weird grade, or not really a weird grade, but it's kind of a weird result for the defense this week because, they did a lot of things amazingly good, honestly, but then they had some stuff that was not very good. So, but overall, though, I'm going to say A- because, the sacks are just unbelievable right now, what they're doing with the sacks. 7 sacks a week after they had 8 the week. I remember saying I didn't expect them to get 8 sacks again. Well, they didn't. They got 7. So, that's I've never seen a Marshall team in my life have 15 sacks in 2 weeks. So that is unbelievable. And that absolutely shook the whole game plan for FAU. Marshall dominated in the trenches, both sides in this game. They absolutely dominated the offensive line and defensive line. So looking at the defense a little closer, they allowed 31 points. That's not the greatest. 419 total yards, and secondary struggled a lot of times in this game. That's the reason I say A-, because the secondary struggled pretty hard in this game at times. But like I said, the 7 sacks, consistent pass rush. They got 1 pick that won them the game at the end. They got a safety. They helped score 2 points, 12 TFLs, 5 quarterback hurries. Defense did a lot of good things. But, at the end of the day, they did give up some points and some yards, and the secondary struggled on and off. But, I think there was too many positives to bring the grade down lower than an A-. So that's what I'm going to go with the defense.
Yeah, 7. You can't say enough about 7 sacks. Jiminy Christmas. I'd also like to point out that one of my points to victory for the Herd was that the defensive line must get hits and sacks to the tune of 4+ on those FAU quarterbacks, and they got 7. It wasn't all the defensive line. A lot of those came from the linebackers, but you understand what I mean. I said 4+ was the number, and they almost doubled me up. And also, I mentioned that they should put their best cover linebacker on Harrison Bryant. And by golly, they shut him out in the first half. He did not have a catch. And you could tell when they came out at halftime that was a point of emphasis for Lane Kiffin, and the offensive game plan was to get Bryant the ball because he had several catches there fairly quickly, but he was still ultimately a basic non-factor in the game. So great job by Brad Lambert and J.C. Price, another good, solid game plan. So how about special teams, Trace?
Yeah, I'm going to keep the A- train rolling. I'm going to say A- again this time for special teams. Thought it was a really solid day, night, whatever. I thought it was good. 2 of 2 on field goals. That'll get it done. Almost 43 yards a punt will get it done, even though that one punt was that was kind of reminiscent of his early 2018 struggles that we like to talk about on this show a lot.
Let Robert live, man.
I love the guy, and he's gotten so much better, and he's been a really, really consistent player for Marshall this year. But that was just one bad punt. That's not anything to worry about. But another thing about this game that I thought was big is they won the field position a lot in this game. They did a really good job with that. They had way more effective kickoffs and kickoff coverage, and I noticed what they did to try to help the kickoff coverage. They tried to kick the ball higher. If you notice that or not, they tried every time Will Wasser would kick off, it would go high. That to be able to give the guys a chance to run down there quicker. And I think that paid off big time because they didn't have a single big return. And I think that was obviously a conceded effort to do that, and it worked. So kudos to the coaching for that. There was a few kind of close calls and almost mess ups, kind of screw ups that they almost had. I think they had 2 or 3 plays where they actually did fumble on kickoffs or punts or whatever, but they recovered them, if you know what I'm talking about. I don't exactly remember the details, but I know that happened at least twice. So you don't really like to see those close calls, but special teams were really good though overall. So I'm going to say A-.
Yeah, not too bad. You're right. I'm going to talk about that. 3 kick returns by Florida Atlantic. The longest one was 20 yards. So definite improvement by the Herd this week. Okay, how about coaching?
Yeah, I'm going to say coaching. I'm going to give them a B this week. I thought it was pretty good, really. There's a couple things I didn't like, but as an overall whole, I think it was definitely solid. One thing I didn't like, though, is they didn't, as great of a game as he had, I don't think they got Knox involved nearly early enough because he only had 3 carries or something like that in the first quarter, and he really didn't even get going until the last couple drives of the second quarter. That's when they started really feeding him, pounding the rock. They really didn't get that going enough early on. But, I mean, when a guy ends up with 220 yards, it's hard to say that he didn't get involved. But early on, I would like to see a little more of that. And one thing that I know I texted in our group text, I know I said about that questionable decision that Doc didn't accept the penalty on that one, where it would have made it 1st and goal at the 2.5, but instead he kept it at 2nd and goal at the 1. And I was thinking, why would you not just take that penalty and give it 1st down? It's only 1.5 yard difference. Now they scored, but I thought that was really dumb at first, because I thought if they end up only getting a field goal out of this, I'm going to be really, really heated. But it didn't end up mattering. But, like, I would have been so salty if they wouldn't have scored on that drive. So I didn't like that. But, I mean, at the end of the day, the result's all that matters.
Yeah.
They did a solid job of dealing with the wide receiver depth because they didn't have any. So they had the 3 tight ends set a lot. They really did a good job with that. Really great time management at the end of the first half and at the very end of the game. Those drives were executed flawlessly. They timed them really well. The one at the very end of the first half, they scored with just a few seconds to go. And then, of course, the one at the end of the game, they scored with 30 seconds or whatever it was. So great job with that. But there were a couple questionable play calls, like running on 3rd and 13 and 3rd and 14, barf. But other than that, though, coaching was pretty good. So I'll say B.
Okay. Yeah, another solid. One thing I'd like to see, maybe, I mean, Xavier gains 1 catch for 1 yard.
Right.
You know, I mean, one week he's tearing it up, and the next week he's not involved as much. So, but as long as your running back is tearing it up, I'm sorry, I said one catch. I meant 1 carry for 1 yard and 3 catches for 12 yards. So, he's just a guy I'd like to see, like you, be involved in a bevy of plays every week, if for no other reason to keep the defense continually having to game plan for that guy. So how about overall? I mean, Jiminy Christmas, 2-1 now in the conference. In position that you can control your own destiny, 36-31, big win on the road, even though, it's FAU, a team for some reason that we always talk about, like they give Marshall fits, but at the end of the day, they've lost one time to the Owls. So how about overall for the Herd this week?
Yeah, I mean, this was a huge win. There's no other way around it. I'm going to say B+ overall. It was a really good game. Now, was it a clean, crisp, perfectly played game or even a great played game? No, it wasn't for either team. But Marshall made more plays at the end of the day than FAU did. And by my estimation, and I think any reasonable fan's estimation would say that the reason Marshall won this game is because they were a more physical, tougher football team than FAU. They completely dominated the line of scrimmage, both sides. I mean, the trenches, they owned it. I mean, there was no – FAU's got a lot of speed and a lot of talent down all those Florida kids, but at the end of the day, Marshall's tougher than they are. I mean, it just looks like that because, I mean, when you have a guy run for 220 yards, you're opening up those holes, and then you have 7 sacks defensively, you're dominating both sides of the ball. And that was where the game was won. No matter what certain FAU fans might say about the officiating, Marshall won this game fair and square. Sorry, not sorry. I don't see how any reasonable, logical fan that knows a thing about sports can say the refs cost FAU this game. But I digress. But either way, great win for Marshall. I'm going to say B+.
Well, when you're not winning games, Trace, you've got to figure out a way to stay relevant in social media, and you do that by a measly $5,000 fine. What's that? That's nothing to him, He probably didn't even have to pay it. So, yeah, good effort. Nothing wrong with that. 36 points on the board. You mentioned he left 4 points off the board. Herd could have had 40+ in this game. So here's the biggie. What do we know about the Herd after 7 games?
Oh, that's a loaded question.
It's always a loaded question.
Especially now, because I feel like now, though, that we know that Marshall has the confidence that they've been lacking. I mean, I don't know that for sure, but, like, I feel like that's a big win for their confidence. I mean, it's not that they go into games thinking they're going to lose by no means, but, like, I feel like they've kind of been a little stagnant, a little going through the motions recently. They haven't had a whole lot of fire. And I feel like this game is going to be huge for that because, I mean, now look at it. If they would have lost the game, they'd be sitting there at 3-4, probably completely out of the conference race. and you would have been heading into homecoming just kind of meh. But now they're heading into it with a legit chance to be in first place at the conclusion of Saturday. And now we go on the road as a road underdog, get a big win at a team that the only 2 losses that team had prior to the Marshall game was Ohio State and Central Florida. So that was a team that had been playing really well. They had won 4 straight games heading into it. So Marshall went down there and got a big win. It was a big, really big win. And I think now they have some confidence that they haven't had in a while. Hopefully that pays off in the end. They keep riding that wave of momentum, hopefully. I mean, they're going to have to win more than just one game to call it a winning streak, obviously. But I think they're in really good shape for that. So we'll see how it goes. But I think they have confidence now. I think they kind of hopefully have a little more pep in their step, a little more mojo. So we'll see. I think it's going to be really fun to see how it plays out, especially Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday's going to be a heck of a lot of fun, and I can't wait to talk about that here in a couple of days when we preview the game and the whole shebang. But looking down the remainder of Marshall's schedule, Trace, I mean, Western Kentucky coming to town, which we talked about. Then they got to go to Texas to play Rice, who's 0-7. The Herd might actually be able to get one in the left-hand column in the state of Texas. But then you got Louisiana Tech coming to town, and they are rolling. And that's going to be a tough game. I don't know that the Herd is going to be able to go 5-0 in all these games. So you can probably count on them losing one more game in conference, so they may need a little bit of help. But they could beat Louisiana Tech. You never know.
It's a blackout game. I mean,
yeah, you're right. That's at the Joan. It should be
better win that one.
Should be Sacred Saturday.
Friday, I guess.
Yeah, it's Sacred Friday, but yeah, it's the Sacred Saturday game. So they always seem to play out of their minds for that. I don't know. So let's get out of here this week with these previews and do some final thoughts. Steve, come back in here. Give me some final thoughts this week as we get rid of Charlotte and get ready for the Moonshine Throwdown.
Yeah, another good win. Like I posted on Twitter, we've already exceeded the season expectations, that a lot of the publications had us in the preseason, winning 2 to 3, 4 games. Right now contending for the East lead. Still got a tough stretch of games, but the defense and the offense are, both kind of proving their worth and what they're capable of doing. Quite possibly the biggest test of the year coming up in Marshall. Even though it's kind of been an up and down season for you guys, you still have consistently shown the ability to move the ball up and down the field. It really just going to be how clean you are in your possessions and how many points you put up. And you've got a solid running back, a good offensive line. And as always, we have a good defensive line and run defense this year. Man, like you've said, we control our own destinies right now. We might see a defensive battle. Neither team might score 20 points in this game. But it should be fun. I'm still hoping I get to make the trip. Undecided at this point. Game time decision. But if I'm there, I can't wait to see all the people that we get to interact with due to this platform. And it should be fun. It's going to be a good game, win or lose. And really just hope we keep this thing rolling no matter what happens.
I like it. Trace, what you got this week?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Steven said. I echo a lot of it. It's going to be a fun game. It always is. I mean, that's how the Moonshine Throwdown has developed into. I think we all know that. I mean, just look at it. Every year, I feel like the games really mean something. Even when if you just look at it at first glance, you wouldn't think it means that much. A real rivalry game always means something, even when there's not a whole lot at stake. And that's what this rivalry has developed into. But it also helps that a lot of these games are very important games season-wise. I mean, last year, it was a Conference USA opener, for crying out loud. That's a big way you got to start out strong. And then, of course, we know how many times it's been for the Conference USA East Division and how it's been on Sacred Saturday, and how it's been a lot of really important, meaningful games. And I think it's going to continue now because it's a battle for first place, essentially. So, I mean, this is a huge game. And, I mean, looking at it just from the Marshals' perspective, they're back home after a big win on the road, kind of an emotional win on the road. Hopefully they can parlay that into more success. I mean, looking at the rest of the season, Marshall has a really good shot here to go on a run. That's what I said before on the FAU preview episode. I said if Marshall could go down there and get a road win like against FAU, then I think that sets itself up for a really strong potential run the team could go on. And I think that started with FAU, and if they could beat Western Saturday, and then that would be like I said, that'd be victories, head-to-head victories over the two other top teams in the East right now. So that would go a long way. If Marshall could end the season, even at maybe even 6-2 in conference, if they have those two head-to-heads, I think Marshall's going to have a great, great, great shot at winning the East. I mean, FIU's kind of playing better now, honestly, but I mean, I still don't really believe in them that much, but they've started to play a little bit better. But it looks like it's a 3-team race right now. No offense, FIU. I have to see more from them, but I think it's right now it's a 3-team race, Marshall, Western, and FAU. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, but it's going to start a big starting point to how it plays out. It's going to be Saturday in Huntington. So let's go. I'm ready.
I'm ready. I've been ready. I'm ready for a sea of green and a wave of red, and I'm looking forward to meeting all the people that I talk to all year long on social media, the people that download and spend their time listening to us yammer on about football, the people that actually enjoy what we bring to the table. I mean, I love it. I love doing this. This is definitely fun for me. I probably have more fun doing this than you guys, our listeners and followers, have by us doing this. So I'm looking forward to being in Huntington. It's going to be a heck of a lot of fun. And you do not want to miss the Moonshine Throwdown preview. If you do, I don't even know why you listen to this show, because this is what our world centers around. And if you're traveling to the game, you're definitely going to want to listen, because we're going to have some important travel info for you, things like good restaurants you might want to hit up if you're staying. We may a couple hotels we'll tell you about, tailgating spots where you might be able to be closer to the stadium. You don't have to walk. All that kind of stuff. And I'm hoping to even maybe be able to offer some info on some topper-friendly herd tailgates, because I know they're out there. That's kind of what makes this rivalry special. Some people, they just get caught up in the hate and you dislike and this, that, and the other. And yeah, that's all part of a really good rivalry. But let's be honest, man. This is kind of like and I hate to use the term big brother, little brother thing, but I want to say family thing. So like you pick on each other, but you really like each other, and you just want to beat the snot out of one another. So we're going to be enemies leading up to the game, or we're going to be friends leading up to the game. We're going to be enemies for those 3 hours between the whistles, and then we're going to be buddies again at the end. We'll be sharing drinks and sharing meals. It's going to be a good time. So if you can make it to Huntington next Saturday or this coming Saturday, please make it to Huntington. And one final note I'm going to say about the game, comparing to Western Kentucky's homecoming, I anticipate there being a huge homecoming crowd. Please go inside the gates. We want to see the stadium packed. This is going to be a showdown for a basically impromptu first place. It may take a couple of weeks for that to pan out, because Western's got such a lead in the loss column that, they still have one out of conference game to play. So we have to wait a couple weeks before the winner of this game actually takes over sole possession of first place if the herd happens to win. But that stuff will all iron itself out. But be sure to listen and download and subscribe to the show. You do not want to miss the Moonshine Throwdown preview. It's going to be chock full of information. We're going to bring you stats and analysis and things that we're not going to bring to you for any other game all year long, because these two fan bases deserve our absolute very best effort when it comes to this game. And let's face it, this is the one that matters. So, all right, let's get out of here. We'll preview the Moonshine Throwdown in a couple of days. Steve, take us out.
Go Tops.
Trace.
Go Herds, baby.
Go Herds. We're out of here. It's the Moonshine Throwdown podcast. Later.